Up and with you here. So thank you for your patience for those of you that are just tuning in. It's good to have you there. And for those of you who are waiting and say, I'm just the one tuning in. Yes, we had some problems getting the stream up and running, but it looks like we are now. I'm just going to go ahead and confirm that we are indeed live just before I continue on to make sure that we've got the technical issues worked out and that we're ready to go. Of course, severe thunderstorm warning continues for the areas that are south of Boston. Yep, looks like we are indeed live, so that's good. You'll be able to contribute through the chat. Keep that in mind. That's something that you can do anytime with us. This is designed to be an interactive experience. You're watching 1 Degree Outside, and I'm meteorologist Matt Noyes. What I'm going to do is we had to do a full reboot right before we came up, so I lost all my windows that were open to chat with you, but I'm opening them now, so we'll be able to chat back and forth. You can use the chat at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. If you're watching on the app, you can see it there as well. And some of you may be seeing this on social media, though I disabled most of our social media streaming here just to make sure we can get this out to those of you that have the app and are watching on the website. So that is the way to watch us this time around. Is going to be through the app or at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. Let's go ahead and dive in and show you what's going on. We'll start out with what's happening on the big picture, and that has been scattered thunderstorms moving their way into the Boston area, but also around Springfield. Of course, it's the ones that are right around the Boston stretch that have prompted the severe thunderstorm warnings. And these storms now are just coming into Brockton. We do have a history of damage that's been occurring with these storms. Matter of fact, the Skywarn spotter network keeping us posted. The damage began up in and around Amesbury when we had the storms come through there, and you can see them over my shoulder now. They are moving off to the southeast. They're headed through East Bridgewater and headed toward Halifax. Pembroke, you're going to be up next. Marshfield, you're going to be up next as well, though the worst of the core of the storm is just coming through Abington and Brockton right now. It's crossing into Whitman. It is producing some locally damaging wind. Additional reports of damage, Walpole, Massachusetts, around South Street, trees and wires down. That reported from the National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network. If you're watching, one of the things that we do is we do take all of your reports in real time and pass them along to the Skywarn Spotter Network. So we encourage you to use our Send to Us tab. You don't necessarily need to be out there taking pictures and video because we always want you to be careful with that. But if you do take any type of reports that you want to send in, you can send those in the same way, and those go directly again to the National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network. Meanwhile, Belmont, Massachusetts, large branch down on Middlecott Street, the area of Oliver Road, a large tree branch down. Newton, Mass, around Elmore Street, a large tree down on wires. Randolph, Massachusetts, at Howe Circle, a tree down on a house. So again, a more significant one in Randolph, and Randolph is, of course, just a little bit farther off to the north and west of where the storm is now. It just came through the 37 corridor around Randolph and Avon, and that is along Route 24 as well, but now it's been Brockton, Whitman, and Hanson that are under the gun. Power lines are down on Howard Avenue in Randolph, and trees are down in Milton, Massachusetts. So when we analyze the map here, get an idea, a little bit better feel for exactly where we're talking about with regard to what we have happening on the severe wind, what I can do for you is I'll go ahead and probe the storm just a little bit closer to give us an idea of what's going on right at the storm speed. And what we'll do is we'll bring up the velocity scan, and we'll get an idea for the winds inside the storm. What you're looking at right at the center here is where you're seeing some of your strongest winds. I know it's right over my shoulder right now, and at some point I'll go ahead and I'll bring it up full screen. But again, one of the things I had mentioned earlier is it took us a little while to get up, so I want to make sure that I just get into it for you, and we'll worry about making it look pretty in a little while. Let's get you the information that you need. So right between Whitman and East Bridgewater, you've got a radar wind measurement of about 40 miles per hour. The problem with that is that's happening in an area where you have a downpour that's going on. So what happens is you take what would be 40-mile-per-hour winds aloft and you bring them down to ground level, and so by doing that you end up increasing the wind speed. So you actually can get 50-mile-per-hour winds happening in an area where the radar may measure 40. So that's why we're talking about 50-mile-per-hour wind gust potential coming into East Bridgewater and West Bridgewater right now as well. You can see that higher wind speed that's over my shoulder extends through both East and West Bridgewater and is dropping off to the south and east. So your next area of damage will be in Bridgewater proper. There will be some isolated damage that will occur essentially anywhere between about Route 24 running in West Bridgewater and then off to the east through Eastville. That'll be the eastern edge of the damage that'll likely be done. So again, all of it kind of dropping south and east right now, back to the more conventional radar plot that you're used to seeing, so you can get a little bit better feel for that. I am going to go ahead and try and bring this up full screen for you now so you can see it a little bit better, a little bit bigger, and you can get that better idea. If you are watching because you were alerted to this and you live along the South Shore at Marshfield and Duxbury, you're just east of the worst of this. You can see the tremendous amount of lightning that shows up here. All of the little white squiggles you see are lightning strikes. The yellow ones are actually positively charged lightning strikes. So what we do is when we see an increase in positively charged lightning strikes, that usually means that the storm is on a strengthening trend or at least is maintaining its strength. So to see a good number of those yellow strikes showing up right at the core right now around Winslow's Crossing, stretched down to Cox's Corner and Hanson, tells us this storm is certainly maintaining its own as it drops south and east. So with a history of damage that I was mentioning to you a short time ago, we look at this now and say, all right, there's a good chance that you'll be finding at least some damage will be cropping up again into Hanson as it drops off to the south and east. At the beaches, I'd say the biggest thing is the lightning issue. You're not going to be into the heart of this in terms of a damaging storm, but you are looking at lightning strikes now that are just entering Marshfield. Situate has had about a half dozen strikes just along the cliffs alone, and that's dropping down to the south, and that's going to continue to move in toward Duxbury. So if you know folks who are out in Duxbury right now, we've had one lightning strike in Duxbury that is far exceeded. It's actually technically just outside Green Harbor. That's far gone outside of the storm core. So the storm center itself is way off to the north and west, just coming into Marshfield right now. But the lightning is all the way down toward Green Harbor. So that means that at Duxbury, we want to take shelter indoors now as the storm comes in. If you know somebody out at the beach in Duxbury, let them know. Now's the time to head in. We just had a lightning strike again outrunning the rain when you get along Route 3. So just outside of East Pembroke, you've got the lightning coming down outside of the rain shaft now. And that's part of the concern there as well, is that lightning is going to precede these storms. They actually, if we set them back into motion a little bit, I can show you a little bit of their history and where they've been. So they started up around the Boston area about an hour ago, and then they started to drop south and east from there. They really started taking off around Arlington, Cambridge, and then as they came into Boston is when the lightning really took off. So we went from isolated lightning strikes in Cambridge to what was a frequent lightning as it came through Boston. That frequent lightning continues with the storm now. One of the things you'll definitely see is a little bit of a weakening trend that's been showing up. So if we go through and we go through, let's say, just the last 30 minutes, it actually stands out pretty brilliantly. You can see where that purple is, and that's where we're getting some reports of hail, along with some of the damaging wind that was coming through. Now you can see a lot of those deep purples are still there, but they're much, much more broken than they were a short time ago. So this tells us that most likely our damaging wind threat now is extremely isolated. It's going to be happening in pockets. It's going to be happening where the heaviest of the storm core is. There's the new scan that just came in, and you can see there's one of those real strong kind of purple heavy storm cores dropping over County Road in Hanson, coming into South Hanson at Main Street. So you're going to be the next area that would be under the gun for wind damage. You want to be tucked indoors away from windows in this particular area. You're going to notice the winds are going to gust quite a bit. Logan Airport actually gusted on the order of about 44 miles per hour when a storm came through there. So just keep in mind that that was when the storm was not as strong as it is now, which means that right now we're talking about a storm that's even a bit stronger than that as it drops in. You may find these gusts to 50 miles per hour right at that core at Hanson. And again, Eastville being on the western side of that damaging core. The only other thing that I would watch for here is on the leading edge. So if you're around Plimpton and Kingston right now, you're way out ahead of the storm. But actually, one thing I'll do for you is I'm going to telestrate on here and show you what's going on. See that line? This is outflow. What that means is we've had cooler air blasting out ahead of the storm. And as that cooler air has come blasting in, it really does cause the winds to kick up. So you get some quick gusts of 40 and 45 miles per hour that are possible even outside the storm itself around Kingston and Plimpton as this thing drops in and along Route 18, and 44 is going to be up next. It won't be long before 44 gets that burst. Again, the worst of the wind, absolutely unquestionably, is going to be the farther north that you go underneath the core of the storm. But just keep in mind that you may get a couple of tree limbs that come down anyway with that gust front, that outflow that's going out ahead of it. All right, National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network reporting in with more now. Quincy, Massachusetts, Intervale Street is closed due to flooding. A lot of rain in a short period of time. Rockland, Massachusetts has reported pea-sized hail. So let's go to the hail estimate here. I had told you there was hail at the core of the storm, right? Let's go ahead and show you. You can see we had some pretty good hail up there around Rockland. That was your pea-sized hail. That was the case basically from Route 37 through Rockland and Abington. We've lost a little bit of that signature right now, but likely still getting at least some hailstones mixed in, small ones, when you get in Hanson right now. Again, the bigger concern is the isolated damaging wind. In Holbrook, South Franklin Street, between the two gas stations, is flooding out, and that's it's led to backed up traffic. So again, That's going on in Holbrook right now. Let's get you back over to the more conventional radar. And there's where the leading edge of storms is. One of the other areas we're going to watch now will be Mansfield and Foxborough. This area has been strengthening a bit. If we play through even just the last 15 minutes, you'll see there's been a bit of an expansion of the storm on the west side around the Foxborough area. So that's right over Gillette Stadium, but it's going to keep dropping south. It's going to come in through Mansfield and Attleboro and Norton. Attleboro is going to be on the far west side. You probably are not going to go severe in Attleboro. You are under a severe thunderstorm warning, so you certainly do want to be prepared for a strong storm. But unless that western edge strengthens pretty considerably, there's no question the worst of this is certainly going to be farther off to the east and going to be in the Halifax and Bridgewater stretch. So we can zoom in again. Bridgewater, East Bridgewater along Route 18. Torrential rain coming down. Keep in mind the reports that we're getting that we have these multiple areas that have flooded out. So it's funny because you're heading into a drought in a number of these areas, right? You had a really dry stretch, but that doesn't stop when there's a humid air mass from getting a really good burst of rain to come down. And that's what we've been seeing here. I am going to stop and I'm going to just check the chat here to see what we've got. Just getting going in Marshfield, says Gerald Kelly. Thank you for that. Yeah, you are just on the east side of the strongest, so that is certainly the good news for you is that Marshfield, I highly doubt you're going to see any damage that will be done, but you do have some thunder and lightning. Getting scary at the Bridgewater-Halifax line. Yep, you're into it now. Here we go. Lightning is now coming in on top of you. Halifax is seeing some of that lightning getting out ahead of the rain shaft, and again, I always worry about that just because a lot of us in our minds associate lightning with rain, right? A lot of times with these storms, especially when they're strong, you get that lightning out ahead of the rain. That's the case over Silver Lake as well. There's the latest scan. We get scans every 60 seconds that come in. So we're going to keep you posted here. Again, feel free to chime in. We normally go out on social media. Had a little bit of trouble getting things up and running. So if you have folks that you know and care about that you think might benefit from this live stream, just let them know. The place to find it is livestream.onedegreeoutside.com, or they can download our free 1 Degree Outside app, and they're able to watch it there. The core of the storm over East Bridgewater right now is going to head toward Plimpton by about 8:19. Just keep in mind, that is the core of the storm. So out ahead of it, you are going to have a blast that comes in earlier. What we can do for you, let me zoom out a little bit more. Let's get that severe thunderstorm warning out of the way. There we go. We'll see whether the warning gets extended farther down to the south and east or not. But one thing I'll do is I'll track the leading edge of the storm for you. Our general motion on the storm has been south-southeast, and it's been at about 19 miles an hour. It's speeding up just a little bit more now as it starts to encounter some of that kind of better in-place humidity that we've had in southeastern Massachusetts. So there are your towns and times. For those of you that aren't able to see it because you're on a smaller screen, I'll read them off, at least some of them for you. Duxbury, it's pretty much on top of you. Next couple of minutes, going to be in on top of you. Kingston, about 8:02. Taunton, about 8:06. Berkeley, about 8:22. 8:31 in Dighton. 8:40 at Somerset. About 8:47 at Marion. So will these hold together down to the Cape? Look, right now we actually think that they will hold together to the canal. I don't think they're going to be as strong as they are now because we've already seen at least some degradation in the strength of the storm. It's been coming down quite a bit. But one thing I can do for you is I'll swing you over and I want to show you the thunderstorm energy that we have. All right, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and you'll actually see some of the best thunderstorm energy, which shows up in oranges, is across northern Rhode Island and running into parts of Connecticut. But we don't expect the storms to build out there. There's just not enough at this point forcing going on. What got these going in eastern Massachusetts was the sea breeze convergence zone. So you had wind that was coming in off of the ocean, and then it was colliding with that warm and humid air, and that was producing the storm. So now as they drop south, what they're going to do is they're either going to maintain as they come into a significant thunderstorm energy, or they're going to weaken if they encounter lower thunderstorm energy. So notice that you do start to get some of these greens, lower thunderstorm energy, when you start getting down by Plymouth, Carver. So you may hold some core areas of isolated damaging wind through Bridgewater, perhaps into Taunton as well. The cell over Mansfield continues to drop south, and again, we'll watch that to see if it strengthens. But generally speaking, once you start coming south of Plimpton, you start getting outside of some of that more significant thunderstorm energy. I can even show you the forecast, which, by the way, the guidance did okay with this, but in terms of where it's going to go, you can see that basically over the next couple of hours it drops down toward the Cape, and then it washes out entirely. I say okay, it didn't do great. It did an okay job picking up on it. We knew there'd be storms. I mean, we were talking about that, but in terms of precise placement, I'd say it was an average performance there. But nonetheless, what you get is with this type of a setup, it's marginal, so you end up with, again, wherever that trigger is, wherever you get that sea breeze convergence, that may get things going for you, and then it'll take off from there. I invite you, if you're watching right now, to contribute to the chat. That's a big part of this, right? It's supposed to be interactive. You'll find that when there's information to convey, I have no problem, and I'm certainly not shy about talking and telling you about it. But really, the idea here is to be able to hear from you, answer your questions or concerns along the way. If you're watching this and you want to be able to do that, if you're watching on the app, you should be able to have that chat feature actually in the live stream window that opened up. If you're watching on the computer, you can do that either through the YouTube chat or through the Twitch chat or right at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. I'm watching all of those chats so that I can kind of contribute and be able to have you communicate with me. So please feel free to chime in, and I'm always eager to hear from you there. All right, so in terms of what we're looking at with the latest, we just get getting more updates now from the Skywarn Spotter Network. Braintree, Massachusetts, 2 cars stuck in flooding on Pond Street, Granite Street, and Town Street is flooded and impassable. And also Whitman, Massachusetts, Route 139 before the Abington line, flooded with 2 feet of water right now. So that's the amazing part is the rain rate here. I'll swing you over, and what we'll do is we can take a look at some of that here in just a moment. I'll try and get you the exact rain rate so you can see. I want to get a latest velocity. Yeah, here we go. So we're still holding a core damaging wind right now. What we can do is if I zoom in, it's going to be just over East Street and dropping south and east. There's Plymouth Street and Whitman Street and Route 18. For those of you familiar with the area, you know exactly where we're talking about. Let me go ahead and probe the center of that. Yeah, so you've got a 42-mile-per-hour wind that's blowing steady just off the deck. And that's not far off the ground because the radar site's out of Taunton. So when you add to that the downpour that's coming with it, that's where you can get those gusts that go upwards of 50 to 52 miles an hour. All right, and that's just dropping over High Street. That's going to keep going southeast. Again, core of the storm, or kind of back edge almost to the heavier stuff, is analyzed here over East Bridgewater. But really, what you're looking at is you're looking at some of those purple returns that we see showing up on the radar, coming over Plymouth Street and dropping toward Thompson Street, River Street. These will be the areas that we will probably end up hearing about some isolated limbs down, things of that nature. We zoom out a little bit more, and there is that back western edge I told you about. It's expanded back toward Plainville a little bit. Again, doubtful that we're going to get damaging wind all the way out through Attleboro. Not impossible, but I think really what stands out to me here is that when you look at the velocity plot, all right, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing that gust front now. Here it is. Has really gone out ahead of the storm, right? So you've got that cooler air already blasting into Lakeville, already blasting into Berkeley, and that's going to keep moving off to the south right now, even though the core, the worst wind, is going to be right around that Bridgewater stretch, right? This is that core of worst wind, but you get that gust front that comes out ahead of it anyway. So that's going to be something that we'll be watching here as it continues to work southward to see how well it holds together. Again, we look together at the storm energy, and we should see it start to weaken a little bit as it makes its way toward Carver, and then certainly the farther southeast it goes. But having said that, I'll still produce some pretty good downpours along the way. We'll check the chat here, see if we have anything else. Nope, nobody else chiming in right now, which is fine. It means everybody's got things in a pretty good place. Again, if you're going to be along Plymouth, you know folks who are at the beach at Plymouth, let them know. We've got some pretty good lightning that's coming in. So it'd be a good idea for them to get tucked in indoors as the storm comes through. So I think that's where we're at for now. I wanted to get up and give you a quick update. Sorry to have you waiting for those of you here in the early part of it. It's not one of those events where I think we need to stay on for an extended period of time. The storm itself is going to hold some strength. If you're watching, you know that you want to remain on guard for this. And the best way to track it, by the way, is with our app. So when I'm not here with a live stream with you, if you grab our app on the App Store and Google Play, it's totally free. If you go to the radar tab, you want to go into past plus future mode. So when you look at that radar tab down in the lower right, there's a little gray box. You can do past plus future, and future. We always suggest doing past plus future. A lot of times folks will go to that future radar and get confused because it's not showing what's going on right now. You'll also be able to track the lightning and the storm tracks. If you go into overlays, you'll be able to turn on lightning, and you can actually see the same live lightning that I was just showing you. So keep that in mind. Just kind of recap for you as to what's going on. Again, there's really kind of one game in town, and it is this line of thunderstorms that's dropping southward and now expanding out toward Taunton and Dighton. We do expect to some extent this will hold together all the way down to Buzzards Bay. We expect it will hold together onto the Western Cape and possibly into Mid-Cape, and certainly the South Coast probably hold together for you. Torrential rain has been a concern. Cars have been stuck in floodwaters as a result. We've had some spots of wind damage. That should remain isolated but present. And then your lightning is pretty significant as well. Again, the storm that's out over Springfield, dropping into Windsor and Windsor Locks next, that one's not going to go severe by the way it looks right now, even though there's some pretty good thunderstorm energy there, so we'll keep an eye on it. But I think that once you get away from that sea breeze convergence where that wind has come together, you probably start out running the ability to get that to continue to thrive. So that's where we're at right now, and if we have anything else big that we have to come up for, we certainly will. I don't expect that, but nonetheless, if we need to, we will.